Hey guys, Isaac here, and welcome to the Smithy, where ideas are forged, sharpened, and put to the test. Whether it is a deep discussion, bold opinions, or just good old-fashioned laughs, we'll fire up the forge and shape the conversation. So please grab a seat and let's get to work. Josh.
Isaac.
Number 2.
Episode number 2, man.
We finally did it.
The Smithy, we actually have a name this time, too.
Yeah, we have named the Smithy.
We had to name the first episode after we recorded the episode.
So it was like, I had the intro, and then...
yeah, and then at the end of the episode, we were like, unnamed podcast. All right. But now it is the Smithy, so we have an episode name.
Yeah.
But how you doing, man? We kind of already talked a little bit.
We did, but I don't know if I'll find that audio or not, so we're just going to go into another intro here.
Yeah. Technical difficulties. They don't talk about the technical issues behind recording a podcast.
They don't teach you this in school either.
No. Yeah, shocker, they don't teach us how to record podcasts in school.
4 years of engineering school and nothing.
I know. Wrong type of engineering. We should have gone to like audio engineering or
Seriously,
something.
That's where everyone's having the money at.
Yeah. Well, I don't know about that, but yeah, cool, man. So having a good week. How's your week been?
It's been good. It's been good. It's good. It's been a busy day with work and everything, and just surviving. But before we get into the topic, I'll ask you that too. But
yeah, no. my week's been very busy as well. I took Monday through Wednesday off of work to go to Tampa because, Miriam took the bar this week, and so we had to go to she took it out of the Tampa Convention Center, so we got an Airbnb out there and all that. Drove out Monday, stayed there Tuesday, stayed Wednesday, then drove back Wednesday evening. And then Thursday went back to work. She went back to work too, and Friday I worked too. And then, wait, what else was I doing? Oh, I had my lab on Thursday too. So it was like I drove from Tampa back home. So that was like 3 hours Wednesday evening. And then Thursday afternoon, I had my lab at UCF. So I had to drive an hour there after work, which was more like an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Because of Orlando. Like an hour 10. But I was like, dude, I'm so sick of driving this week. It's just so much.
And it's like a tiring road because you take, I think I-4, right? Or...
To Tampa?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're on I-4 like from Tampa to Orlando, and then you get off. I don't know, there's some highways in between, like the 417 or something.
Do you try to dodge like Disney and like Universal?
No, I just plugged it into the maps and just let it go.
Yeah,
I don't know. I've never been to Tampa before this week, so I don't know my way around.
So were you in the city or were you like in the suburbs?
Yeah, we were downtown because the convention center is like smack in the middle of downtown. And driving in downtown Tampa is awful. It is so ridiculous. And to top it off, Monday when we were driving there, it was raining the entire day.
Oh,
we were driving out there, so it's like not only am I driving in a place that I don't know, and like when you get to downtown, like the streets are all crazy and all that, but it's also raining on top of that. And I have to change out the windshield wipers on our car. So it's like, dude, I can't see anything. And then you ever have that issue where like your windshield will start fogging up. So you have to turn the heaters on. Yeah. But then you get too hot. So you have to turn them off.
AC, you go back and forth.
And then it like, oh my gosh, dude, that's
like the pains of living in Florida. It's like the two things I hate is like that in the car. And then when you have super hot, like in the summer and I have the AC on. Yeah. And I'm wearing glasses and I step out of the car and it's just like. It
fogs up.
Boom.
Yep. I've had that
can't
issue
see
too.
Anymore.
Yeah. But yeah, the streets in downtown Tampa are ridiculous because like there's no clear sense of like structure in terms of how the highways are set up and the streets and all that. Mm-hmm. Whereas like Los Angeles, where I grew up and I'm used to, when you go downtown over there, like the streets are in a grid system for the most part. Yeah. So it's like, you know what to expect. There aren't really. I don't think there's a whole lot of one-way roads in LA. I don't recall there being one-way roads there, but there's a lot of one-way roads in downtown Tampa, which like throw me off. So I don't know. Maybe I'm just a bad driver. I don't know, but yeah, it was that was a little stressful. But overall, she took the exam and she felt decent about it. So just praying that she passes. We'll find out in March, and
it's so torturous though.
Yeah, it's like 6 weeks. It's kind of
Like,
ridiculous.
isn't it Scantron? Can't they just like?
No, because there's essay portions too.
Is it really essay portion? So they have to
Yeah.
have someone read it.
Yep. Yeah.
Can't they just use AI to do it now? Like speed it up.
I mean, I guess. But
Hey, ChatGPT, read these papers and grade them.
yeah, this is a bar association though, so they're going to take
No, it's
forever.
very, very important.
If they're ever going to do anything like that, they're going to take forever to adopt any sort of AI into their grading system. But
Can you imagine AI just running the court system?
one day, man, we'll see.
day.
At least help you. I mean, we already use it for work, so
Yeah, I use it heavily. That's why I do a lot of work. It's just a lot of me and ChatGPT just talking to each other, just getting things done.
I mean, it's no different than just looking up on Google.
Yeah, no, it's like replace Stack Overflow. It's all it did.
Yeah, pretty much a more helpful Stack Overflow.
Yeah. Because it
But-
actually like talks to you. It says like, "Hey, how's it going?"
Yeah,
But anyway, to actually start with our topic.
yeah.
Today.
So today's episode is called Faith at Work.
Yes.
And it's a little bit of a double entendre because when someone says faith at work, what they're meaning is like, oh, faith is working in like
yeah.
the body of the church or something like that. But this is faith at work. At the
Yeah.
workplace. And also faith just with work in general.
Yeah.
And so before we jump into, what more specifically I want to talk about regarding work, let's just talk about
What we do.
Which we've shared a little bit about, I think in the last episode and a little bit now. But yeah, so Isaac, what do you do for work?
Well, to start with, I went to school, become a computer engineer at FIT, Florida Tech.
Also, if you hear a motor outside, it's because there's a car that's driving
Looks
right
like
now.
a nice Subaru though. Look at that.
Yeah, that's all right. He's driving off.
Yeah.
So good.
But no, I went to school becoming a computer engineer. What computer engineering does mostly is program hardware. That's like, the easy way to think about it is you look at your phone and your phone has an OS. That's what computer engineers make on your phone. So that's what I work with a lot. And I actually work at an engineering company that specializes in both designing products and then moving those products to manufacturing.
Yeah.
So I am the director of manufacturing there. I've been there for about 10 years so far. And the only reason why is because I started working when I was 15. And it's because it's actually owned by my parents.
Yeah. 15, huh?
Yeah.
Slave labor, man.
Yeah. Just me just hanging
Or
out.
child labor.
Literally, the first year was just me breaking down boxes.
Yeah. I mean, you got to start somewhere, right?
Yeah, exactly. Cleaning the factory, breaking down boxes. Now a director of manufacturing.
Yeah.
But most of my experience has been about the last 7 years have been in engineering and stuff like that, and learning to both grow myself at work, but also learning to lead others. Since now we're at a bigger size than we are.
What drew you to computer engineering?
So my dad went to school, become an electrical engineer.
Have mercy on his soul.
Have mercy on his soul. And I just wanted to be different. So I just picked computer engineering.
Computer engineering.
I just wanted to be the black sheep.
Didn't want to do double E. Didn't want to do computer science.
My dad, because to be honest, I think computer science is not as good as computer engineering, but the math is not there. But no, my dad did double E, and my brother did double E. And I was like, screw it, I'm going to do CE.
Yeah. Computer.
Be different. But the funny thing is, my brother, he went to double E, but he went more towards software. So he's more in AI and machine learning.
Yep.
And I went more towards hardware, closer to hardware. So.
Yeah.
But that's the reason why I chose. And my dad was an engineer, so I kind of followed in his footsteps. And there's a running joke with all three of us that we always want to be doctors and surgeons. But we don't want to actually chance it and potentially kill somebody. So engineering is our next best step.
A little less consequential in terms of someone's life in your hands.
If you destroy a board, it's just $500, $200.
Right, That's funny.
But how about you, Josh? So where do you work and why?
Yeah, so I mean, to start off with schooling, I graduated from UCLA with my bachelor's of science in electrical engineering. Started off in community college at El Camino in Torrance, California, where I grew up, and did 3 years there. Transferred to UCLA and finished out there. And I actually started school as what did I start at? I think it was aerospace engineering, and then for whatever reason, I switched to mechanical engineering. But then I realized with mechanical engineering, you have to take 2 of the college level chemistry classes in order to transfer. And I was like, nah, I don't really want to waste my time taking additional chemistry classes. So I was looking at the electrical engineering track, and you only had to take 1 chemistry class.
Oh yeah.
For that, and I was like, all right, yeah, that's what I'm doing. And but then I was also I was more interested in like, circuits and software and stuff like that. And I actually took I think what really drew me into electrical side is I took the second physics class that I took in college. It was physics 1C, and so I actually skipped 1B, and I took straight into 1C, which was not a good idea. But it was electromagnetics and circuits, and I really liked that class. And my professor was really good too. I really liked my professor, and so I think that was like kind of what tipped me more towards the EE route.
Yeah.
So yeah, I graduated UCLA with my bachelor's in electrical engineering, and now I work at a defense contractor here in Melbourne, big corporation, mainly doing test engineering, system integration and testing, focused on, well, pretty broad focus, just any hardware in our system, but also my interests are more in like RF and microwaves, which RF is radio frequencies for anyone that doesn't know, because our company specializes in communication systems, so that's very relevant to the work that we do. And I feel like RF is like, it's not really a talked about topic in like common society, I guess, which makes sense because it's totally black magic. And
it totally is black magic.
Yeah,
but
it's also like what keeps society running. Like, if like people don't think about it, but we're constantly surrounded by wireless communications, like your phone, the Wi-Fi, Bluetooth. Also, I think it's like 2.4 gigs or something like that. So
I wish they would teach it more in high school, because I feel like if we were to actually, because when you actually like get down to learn it, it's very understandable, and it's interesting. We need that stuff, like you said, in society.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Because high school. Well, I didn't take any like legit engineering classes in high school. I just took like a physics class. Yeah. And in physics, it was just like Ohm's law, current, resistance, voltage, like very basic courses. Like it was like basic circuit analysis, like series circuits, parallel. Which,
and I feel like they should teach a little bit more. Just like understanding what RF is, because right now we have a problem. That people think like RF destroy your brain. And stuff that.
Oh, the electromagnetic frequencies are gonna
like
kill me.
They don't know as much, and then they start going down rabbit holes of like, oh my goodness, the Wi-Fi is killing me. You're like, stop.
Yeah, or like when they started putting up those 5G towers, and people are like, they're trying to transmit COVID through the 5G towers, and you're like, dude, you're like, are you kidding me right now?
And you're like, hold up. Don't we have skin to protect us?
Yeah. I mean, there are like, you do have to be careful in some sense. Like I had a professor at UCLA who was talking about AirPods, and he was like, yeah, I don't use AirPods. Because, you got Bluetooth like right in your ear. Yeah. And, that's like, I think it's 2.4 gigahertz is the frequency that they use for Bluetooth. So it's like, that's pretty high frequency to have right next to your brain, so it's possible.
It's a quick track, but honestly, I think the loud sound is more harmful to your body.
There's more, I would say, more like short-term like, damage that you can do to your ears with, by blasting music through your AirPods. But yeah, it's definitely not something that like there's enough research in. But but I mean, on your note, like we're constantly being bathed in microwaves all the time. Like again, the Wi-Fi, and in this apartment building we have like 100 units. Every single unit has Wi-Fi in
you can see mine upstairs, I can see yours down
here.
Exactly.
So it's like we're being bathed in Wi-Fi all the time, and then on top of that, like the sun also on the electromagnetic spectrum visual light. Like it's just a different area of the EM spectrum.
It's just in the end, all boils down to is energy. But we're both engineers.
Yeah, no, we could yap about this all day. But that's not why we're here for this episode. So sorry for anyone who's listening if we bored you with our conversation about microwaves.
Future topic:
Yeah.
Christianity and microwaves.
If you stop listening, I don't blame you at all. But so we're talking about work today, faith at work, and I think it's we wanted to talk about this topic partially because we're both engineers. We both spend a lot of time at work, but also in general, like for the common person who has just any sort of career, you're spending at least 40 hours of your week at work.
Yeah.
And that's like a huge portion of your life. And yet at the same time, I feel like there's not a lot of conversation in Christian circles around like, how should I approach work?
Yeah.
What are my expectations as a believer at work? Do I even bring God into the workplace? You know, all these things. Like, I hear, work is your mission field, and it's like, okay, well, we can talk about that. But so before we jump into that, though, just let's define our terms because it's good to define your terms.
Yeah.
So when we say work, what exactly are we talking about?
Office job, your 9 to 5. It doesn't have to be exactly an office job because there's trade jobs and stuff like that. But anything that you do that allows you to continue living, brings means of money and things that you need to survive.
Right.
Usually when we work about 1/3 of our life because throughout the day we have 1/3 of it is during work because we got to make money so we can enjoy our life and live. And then the other 2/3 are sleeping and then rest.
Yeah.
So
basically any service you provide in exchange for money. Right?
Exactly.
Or something similar.
You're trading hours to get money for it.
Right. Yeah. So you kind of touched on it a little bit. But why is it important that we work? What's the point?
We love to eat, right? We have needs, It's not all peachy like it used to be back in the garden. We didn't have trees that provide us food. We talked about in the last podcast. The gospel. We sin. We have the punishment now to basically work at the sweat of our brow.
Yeah.
That's not what God intended work to be. It intended to be something for us to grow and learn. As Adam was his job was naming the animals in the garden and just being there with God. But because of what we did as a human race. Now we have to toil and actually work the grounds. Yeah.
So work has been around since creation.
Time, yeah.
And it's funny because people, I feel like, when people think of heaven, right? Once you die, you go to heaven. Hopefully, if you're a believer, that you're just going to kick back and relax and it's just going to just chill the whole time for the rest of eternity. It's no, that's actually not true.
Yeah.
There is work to be done in heaven. I can't imagine what that work would be. Honestly.
I think it'd be perfect work.
Right, yeah.
Could you imagine we're just engineers up there? We get everything just works out. There's no bugs.
But what problems do you have to solve up there? I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe just go to the cosmos of the universe and just doing some
go fix that star.
Yeah.
So okay.
I get heaven's perfect, but there's no problems to solve. But
yeah. No, that is something I've thought about. Is what does work look like in heaven? But
yeah.
Regardless, there is some sort of work to be had.
Yeah.
And we see this in Genesis where, God worked himself when he created, the heavens and the earth and formed the earth and formed man and the universe. That was work that he did for his glory. But on top of that, it's not just God that works, it's also man that works. Like you said, he created Adam and he tasked Adam with the responsibility of naming the animals, taking care of the garden, and, subjecting the world to his dominion, right? And so that's all work. And, but work then, looks different than work does now. So what exactly changed between when God gave Adam his first assignment versus the work that we have now, other than, the scope of work obviously being different. But
yeah, society grows. But I think that what changes, like, before the fall, it was like heavily guided. God was just there with us, and it was just like perfect. Like, the way I kind of like to think about it is like God has designed us to be like free thinking, like people to like basically interact with. And so that's what he was doing with Adam. Like, it's like, a similar, but not like too similar, because it's way above what I'm trying to say. But think of like Adam as like the first ever AI, and then God.
Dude. I don't know why that's hilarious to me.
But think like Adam's the first ever AI, and God's like, okay, ChatGPT, or okay, Adam, name this animal, and he's like, zebra.
Yeah.
And like that's like the idea I think about. It's like, and it's interesting because my brother told me, like, with AI, the first thing that we did was classification. What's the first thing God did with humans? Is classification, naming things.
With AI and classification, what do you mean by that?
Like, you're telling, like, hey, you're naming this thing. Name this, like...
Oh, I see.
Like, okay, like, let's give you a data set. Now I want you to name what this is.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah, it's like the machine learning algorithm.
Yeah.
Like, you want it to be able to identify
what animals are. So, like, that's, like, what God did with Adam. It's like, okay, what's that animal over there? Name it. And so, like, I feel like that's the kind of work was, like, just the work of the brain and just, like, us being in harmony with God. But then...
Yeah, you ever think of like Adam having to name all those animals, and you're like, dude, where the heck did you come up with all these ideas? Like, I can't even name... In high school, I couldn't even come up with a name for my essay after I wrote it.
Yeah.
And you're like, dude, you have to name all the animals in the garden? Like, what?
Well, the thing is, his language is also different. So I'm, like, curious. What would the animals be? That's something we'll find out in heaven.
Yeah, I think I've also heard, like, the number of animals was less back then, because, like, I think natural selection is a thing. I think, there is an evolutionary mechanism. I don't believe we evolved from apes, but, you can see evolution in nature.
More micro, less macro.
Right. So it's like there is diversification over time and like species and stuff. So I want, like, there were less animals back then that he actually had to name, and then from there kind of like branch it out. But anyway, that's a totally different topic. But yeah, so I agree. Like, it's really the pre-fall versus post-fall work, and we see. Let's see. I had a note here somewhere. Genesis 3. Yeah. Genesis 3, 17 to 19. So, so Adam and Eve sin they rebel against God by eating of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. And God curses work because of it. So Genesis 3, 17 to 19 says, to Adam he said, because you listened to your wife and ate fruit from the tree about which I commanded you, you must not eat from it. Cursed is the ground because of you. Through painful toil you will eat from it all the days of your life. It will produce thorns and thistles for you, and you will eat the plants of the field. By the sweat of your brow you will eat your food until you return to the ground, since from it you were taken. For dust you are, and to dust you will return. So yeah, he's saying, the work that you were previously doing before will now be more difficult.
Yeah.
It'll fight against you, specifically here in the context of, growing plants in the field, but there will be thorns and thistles that you have to fight through, and painful toil. So that's kind of how we see work now, is like, man, like going to work is just a pain. Like, at least for me, I mean, we have different experiences with work and different perspectives. So I think we'll get into more of that as we go on. But, for the typical person, like going to work is
it's just
not
like
fun,
I have to do this.
Right.
Like, it's almost like before the fall, the master was God. So like it was perfect. And it's awesome to do work. But after the fall, the master is like human needs and need to like survive.
Yeah, interesting.
So like it switches masters, and that's why it's like rough, because it's not perfect with like human needs, but it's perfect with God. So it's a lot easier.
Yeah, that's interesting. I never thought of that. Like the driver behind your work.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's a good one.
Just come straight out of here.
Yeah, dude. Straight off the dome, huh? All right, so we kind of we touched on it a little bit, but we can continue the conversation. So the next question is, what does Scripture say about work? So we both have a verse that we both admire quite a bit about work.
It's like one of my favorite verses in Colossians.
So, yeah, go for it.
Let me pull it up because I'm trying to look at both chats. I think you actually have it written out.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah,
Yeah, we have like 2 notes. We made notes.
We are to work not as through we are working for man alone, but working for God. We are to give work our best effort, and we are to do well in remembering. We not just accountable to our manager / boss, but we're also. I think actually what you said. I need to read the actual verse.
Yeah, that was my note. Here,
I was like, this does not sound like the.
I have the verse. Yeah, so the verse, Colossians 3:23. It says, "Slaves, obey your earthly masters in everything, and do it, not only when their eyes on you and to curry their favor, but with sincerity of heart and reverence for the Lord. Whatever you do, work at it with all your heart as working for the Lord, not for human masters, since you know that you will receive an inheritance from the Lord as a reward. It is the Lord Christ you are serving." So, what is that? I mean, you kind of read my note already, but what does that mean? What does that verse mean for you personally?
Honestly, and the reason why I love this verse so much is actually I used to be a leader for a guys group.
Yeah.
And my first ever session I led a study in was actually Colossians 3. So,
oh yeah.
That was like my
Of course,
first...
you picked Colossians 3. But...
Actually, it was actually in the lineup.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow, really? Just fit perfectly for you.
I decided to do it, and I picked it, and I really put my heart into it because, that verse is something I really love and something I really try to live my life to. But
yeah,
the way I read it and the way I see it is, the whole idea is when you work, try to put the idea, and what we were just saying earlier, the focus and the master onto God instead of man alone. When you're working, work as if you're working for God. Work as your boss is the Heavenly Father, not your earthly boss.
right.
Because there's a lot more that you have to do during work than just your simple work tasks, if that makes sense. But,
Wait, say that again.
Yeah, way I see it is when I'm going through and working for God, I'm not just trying to do my programming task, but I'm also trying to do everything justly, right, righteously. I'm trying to make sure I hit deadlines because I promised this to my customers.
Right.
Or I'm trying to make sure that I don't treat other people in the workplace bad because again, I'm working for God, not just for a man alone.
Yeah, working with integrity.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think I have Colossians 3:23 written up on my whiteboard in my office. And I'm not saying I work perfect all the time, but that's the goal, right?
Yeah.
The goal is to work as if you are working for the Lord and not just for your managers. And what's funny is I would get good feedback from my managers, and they'll be like, "Wow, you're doing a really good job. You're very, very, getting your tasks done, very innovative in the ideas you have, and all of that." And I feel like it's easy. It could be easy for someone to get gassed up on stuff like that.
Yeah.
And, get a big head and be like, "Oh yeah, look at me, I'm all that." But for me, it's more dude, I'm just doing my job. I'm here to serve the Lord. I'm here to put my best foot forward and to work with integrity and just just do my job basically. And so it doesn't. I don't get hyped up on that. It's nice to hear. I appreciate it. But that's not what I'm working for. And I'm not perfect in that, obviously. I have stories that I might share where I've fallen short of that. But like I said, the approach that Colossians 3:23 lays out is the goal for the Christian in the workplace. I think our pastor says at church, the Christian employee should be the best employee to come into the office.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
Yeah, no, and to just build off of that, the whole what you're saying, how people notice you differently, that's not the goal, but that's such an amazing byproduct. to have when you follow this like idea of like, hey, when you work for God instead of work for man alone.
Yeah.
Because that byproduct is what helps you get through life too. Because like not only you're showing excellence to other people, but people see that, and then it allows you to share the gospel through that, because they ask you like, hey, how come I see you work so hard, but our boss sucks? And you're like, well, it's because I want to make sure I do 100% what I do, because I'm not just working for Jeff. I'm working for the Heavenly Father.
Right. Yeah.
Like, that's the real boss. That's the owner of the whole world. And like, I want to please him.
Right.
I can care less about pleasing my earthly masters. I'm just doing what's set ahead of me.
Yeah.
Man.
And you will inherently, ideally, you will inherently please your earthly masters, quote unquote, by pleasing the Lord.
Well, there's wisdom when you please the Lord, like people will see it and they'll get pleased too. Like
right.
People are drawn to like righteousness.
Right.
Even though a lot of people are tend to try to stay away from it, but no, they're still drawn to it.
Yeah. Yeah. So another verse that I actually like, that helped me a lot, I think at some point last year, was Ephesians 2:10. I have it written.
Another Paul banger right there.
Yep, another Paul banger. I had it written.
Yeah, I'm going to make sure I don't read your notes again.
Yeah, I'm trying to make sure I don't do that too.
It's at the very bottom. I think you have Timothy, though.
No, I have Ephesians 2:10 also.
I like how your notes
Hold
are like
on.
way better than mine's. Like,
sorry, folks. Let me pull up my Bible app, and read this directly. So
Ephesians 2:10. I see it. You want me to read it?
Yeah, go ahead and read it.
For we are all God's handiwork, created in Christ Jesus to do good works, which God prepared in advance for us to do. Ephesians 2:10.
Yeah, so I like that. I like that verse a lot, because one of the questions people ask, and it's an existential question, and it's a good question to ask, is what is the point of my life here on this earth?
Yeah.
And that verse answers it very explicitly: is you were created in Christ Jesus to do good works.
Yeah.
So it's like the purpose of our life on this earth is to do good works. And part of that, and this isn't a all-inclusive definition into what good works entails, but part of good works is showing up to work and doing a good job. Mm-hmm. And so that just gives me like drive while I'm at work too. Just be like, hey, like I'm here to do a good job, and just gives me purpose behind what I'm doing.
You're designed for it, and I always believe that too. Like one thing I always like to look back to in Exodus is when they're making the ark, or in Leviticus, I forgot which one, where they actually the detail of the Ark of the Covenant.
Yeah,
and like it talks about like, okay, this family, a family of masonry, they're going to do this part. This family of carpenters, they're going to do this part. It's like God already predestined and designed them to like basically. Like that, that family there, they're gonna be amazing carpenters. They're gonna do this part to help build up the ark. That the stonemasons there, that family, they can do this part. It's like God designed them already to be.
That's
part
for the
of that
temple,
job.
Right? Is that what you're talking about?
I'm talking about like ark, the Ark of the Covenant. Yeah.
Okay.
And like it's like all the detail behind it and the metal and everything.
Yeah. Well, it's similar for the temple too,
Yeah.
or the tabernacle before the temple. And
I think tabernacle too. I think like anything that involves a construction. I've noticed like it talks about like and I have to get an exact verse, but it talks about like, hey, this family is going to do this part of the section of it.
Yeah. No, that's really good. So another verse too that I noted down, and you can give me your thoughts on it, was 1 Timothy 5:8, which says, "Anyone who does not provide for their relatives and especially for their own household has denied the faith and is worse than an unbeliever."
Dang. Also, NIV is interesting how it says that, because like it says relatives in NIV, but if you go to ESV or like NLT, it says like provide for their own family.
Okay.
But yeah, no, honestly, if you remember the whole controversy in the news about JD Vance about this.
What happened with JD Vance?
So he didn't do anything bad, but it's the political sphere was talking about like how it's wrong. It's not Christian-like about the border and stuff like that. We're not going to go deep into that in this conversation.
Right.
But what a J.D. Vance's like message was like, hey, in the Christian faith, you must first take care of your own family.
Yes.
After you take care of your family, you can take care of your neighbors, and after you take your neighbors, then you can take care of your country. So like it sets an order of like God, family.
It's the order of love.
Order of love, yes. And that's like part of what your verse you listed. It was like, that's part of the love. Like, it's unloving if, like, for an example, if you have somebody be like, I don't care about my family, but I think I want to go and help out some starving country in the world. So I'm going to go ditch my family. I'm not going to defend them because I think it's a greater honor to go out to Africa and help feed the homeless there.
Right.
And then
you're actually worse than an unbeliever by doing that.
Because we're called to first take care of family. God gave us families for a reason.
Yeah, I mean, you're basically discarding your, like, first responsibility by, quote unquote, righteously, like, seeking to fulfill someone else, like, a different responsibility. It's like, well, if you can't even take care of your family, how can I expect you to take care of people in Africa? You know, like,
I always
that's a weird, people in Africa is a weird example, but yeah, I listen to Michael Knowles like almost every day.
He talked about this.
Yeah, like, I think he called it like the Ordos Amore or something.
Yeah.
It's like a really old school, like,
the
Christian Orthodox belief or idea, but it makes sense and it's scriptural. Or like the order of your responsibility of love to your family.
Honestly, like the way I see it too is also like, the way of like how you take care of, like, the order of like what you need to take care of first. Like, for us, when we first became Christian or baby Christians, was the first thing we did. We try to first build ourselves up in foundation with God, so we're taking care of ourselves, and then we can branch out and help out others, like the church, the body does, and disciple others. And it goes on like that route. So like, you first got to make sure like you're good. Like, the way I think about it is like, an airplane that's going down. Make sure the mask is on you first before you help other people out, because you can choke yourself out with the air.
Yeah, I get what you're saying behind that, but I also don't entirely agree in the sense that the world, the culture of the world very much perceives like very much cares about self-care. Like, let me take care of myself and then I'll take care of other people.
See, I'm trying not to like get into that area, but more like when I say take care of myself is like, first things first is we got to first talk about the sin problem in ourselves and deal with that first.
Yeah, I mean, you have to understand the theology behind what you believe.
Yeah.
But I think they happen in parallel. Like you become less selfish and desire to serve others more at the same time that you develop in an understanding God's love and grace.
Yeah.
And those kind of happen at the same time. But if you do it like sequentially, it's easy to fall into the pit of like, oh, I just need to like always be taking care of myself. Like, I need to get myself perfect before I can go and help others. And it's like, well, no, that's actually
you're still called to serve others. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and I guess like I'm just trying to go with the analogy of like taking care of your family first before.
Yeah. But so bringing it back to the work conversation, I think that verse is interesting because it ties in with like why we're supposed to work. Yeah. Which is, I mean, you work to get money, right? And you use money to buy food, shelter, a car, transportation, medical needs, etc. And if you're not working to get that money for those needs, then you aren't taking care of your family. Mm-hmm. And that's a very dishonorable thing to do, right? Yep. And so it's not always about like, oh, well, I work because I enjoy my job, and like that's a great thing if you have that, but that's not the driver behind why you're supposed to be working. You're supposed to work for the intent of taking care of your family and yourself, and then everything after that is secondary or is a plus, right? So that's kind of just like what some scriptures touch on regarding work and the Christian's approach to work. But we kind of wanted to dive into a little more relevant to our generation. So you had some notes on that. You want to?
So that's why I wanted to pick on our generation, which we're both Gen Z.
Yep.
So
Gen Zers, Zoomers.
Yeah, the Zoomers. We're in the workspace now.
Although we're more like Zillennials because we were born in '99, so it's like kind of like the gray area. Between
Gen Z starts at like '98, right?
Yeah, but it's like there's a lot of overlap between younger millennials and then like older Gen Zers, so they'll call them like Zillennials.
Zillennials were like the in between.
Yeah, but I mean, strictly speaking, yes, we are Gen Zers.
But I found some information online. It talks about like Gen Z in the workplace, and this is biblical to like how our everyday lives are. But a full 74% of those surveyed said they found that younger employees tend to be more difficult to work with than their older colleagues. Among the respondents, 49% said they found it difficult to work with Gen Z all or most of the time. So basically, like about 40% of like managers, owners, and stuff like that have a hard time working with the younger generation. And so that's a pretty big like
40%.
Yeah,
I mean that's
almost like
almost
half.
a majority.
Yeah. And these critiques are attributed to perceptions that Gen Z workers lack technology skills, effort, motivation. And some of the surveys also critique Gen Z's communication skills and said they're overly sensitive and constructive. Overly sensitive to constructive feedback. Mm-hmm. So they tend to not like to hear constructive feedback, and they create fits about it. That's what I read from that sentence.
Throw tantrums.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like, let me ask you, like, why do you think we're seeing that, like, right now in this world, and especially in the workplace, kind of like sort of like an issue with Gen Z at times where like they're having a hard time working in the workplace?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of factors that tie into it. I think one of the big ones though is that we've created a culture of entitlement.
Yeah.
And corporations will actually like support that through their HR departments, where it's like it's about HR. It's about being unique. Yeah. It's about being, just being you.
You're a special snowflake.
Right, yeah, you're so special and all those things. And so it creates a sense of entitlement behind the employee, Gen Z or not. And so when you face, some sort of disagreement or, you get criticism or whatever, it's like, well, I was told that I was special and unique. So why are you giving me critical feedback about how I'm not doing my job right or not doing my job well? And so I think that's one issue. Another issue I would say is like communication is very difficult between different generations. So for like young employees, so like for me, just speaking from my own experience, right, I like using like Teams and to like send messages and email and stuff. But I've noticed that a lot of the older people that I work with don't really care to use Teams that much.
Yeah.
Or will like not respond to emails. And that can get like frustrating. So it can create like a barrier between communication. And it's like, it's not like it's entirely their fault. It's not entirely my fault either. It's just differences in preference behind communication.
Yeah.
I was actually at an event last night with Miriam where we were talking to one of the Brevard judges, and we were saying how, like, when you send them a text message K, like, what does that mean to you? If you say something and someone just responds K, what does that mean to you?
Oh, good. Sounds good.
Dude, you're old. Are you kidding me? What?
I don't know. Like that's my thing. Like okay.
The normal Gen Zer would say you're being very like you're upset, you're mad at me.
Oh yeah, okay. Now I know.
Yeah. Or like, like it could seem like passive aggressive or just aggressive.
Okay, I've seen that before.
Yeah. So what they were saying is like, no, like I'm busy. Like I don't have time to write a full message out. Like I'm just saying K to acknowledge what you said and like all good, no worries. Like, okay. the Gen Z like employee that she was talking to or whatever responded. She was like, "Are you mad at me?" So just like totally different like styles of communication can create like
that's why I use emojis, like thumbs up,
right? But that's not something that like an older generation would think of to do, because they're like, well, I'm not mad at you, like, I'm just acknowledging your message, right?
All good.
So I had that recently where like I was sending one of the older guys I work with a message on Teams, and all he sent back was okay, and I was like, all right, guess this conversation's over. No problem. Like, there is a sense of like, oh, is he mad at me? But I'm like, he's not mad at me. There's no reason for him to be mad at me. But there's that like second guessing almost of like, no, I just have to realize that like this is how they communicate. Whereas if I had gone to talk to him in person, it would have been a full blown conversation. We would have talked for 30 minutes because he loves to chit chat and all these things, and it would have been fine. But it's just like the different forms of communication can cause kind of rifts and like people's perspectives of one another in the workplace, especially between different generations. So what about you? So I said entitlement and then communicate differences in communication. What do you think?
Probably with Gen Z. I would say a little bit entitlement, but maybe a financial entitlement at times.
Okay.
Or, what they feel like they deserve for the work they put in. And maybe like laziness for one work. Trying to cut more like, I'm blanking on the word, but try to cut work a little more to think they're efficient, but they're screwing up in the end, in the long run.
Like
shortcuts.
Shortcuts.
Yeah.
It's like cutting corners.
Yeah, cutting corners,
right.
Shortcuts and stuff like that. I see a lot with like the Gen Z the things, and honestly, I kind of agree with a lot in the sensitivity of like they want to have their managers care more about their feelings than the actual like job at hand.
Yeah.
I think an example I would have is like I tend to see, and this is where I'm kind of blessed to be in a position where I actually am like a manager over a lot of younger guys, and I've been a manager over older guys too.
Yeah.
Which is a weird concept sometimes. Like I'll be in charge and there's someone who's 50 years old that's under me.
You're telling them what to do.
Yeah. I'm like, it honestly, if you look at the Bible, it's biblical because God has put many young men in charge of society and stuff like that.
It's weird though.
It's weird. It is weird because you think you need to have all the wisdom and guidance, but sometimes God provides that for you right there and then.
Yeah.
It is though weird at times to have like a 50-year-old tell me, "Man, you have so much wisdom. Like you're such an awesome guy." I'm like, I love it, thank you. But
yeah, so financial entitlement.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a big one. That I don't remember what the exact number was, but there was some like thing I read online that it was a survey done to like Gen Zers where it was like, how much money do you expect to make when you graduate college? And it was like over $100,000 entry level for a job, and I'm like, well, maybe if you live in like New York or Los Angeles,
maybe you like live in the very expensive states. But like when I look at that, I'm like, good Lord, I thought you'd be like a director to get to that level.
Yeah, I mean the average person is not making six figures when they graduate out of college. Yeah, no, that's crazy. I think so. Kind of on that note, though, one of the issues, like one of the reasons why I think there is that sort of financial entitlement is that we send everyone to college, right?
Yeah.
And you're expecting like what you're promised essentially from a young age in our generation is that you're going to go to college, like you're going to do well in school, you're going to go to college, you're going to get 4 years, whatever degree you choose, you're going to be making a ton of money when you get out because that's what you're supposed to do and that's what society was built around. And that's totally not the case because most degrees don't have a lot of value in the marketplace.
Yeah.
And so you have all these people that are picking like easy degrees because they're easy and they don't want to like work really hard, or maybe like their interests just don't align with some of the other degrees. So they pick this one and they're expecting to make a bunch of money when they graduate, but they're not because their degree just doesn't inherently have that much worth within the marketplace.
Yeah.
And on top of that, when you send everyone to college, you're basically flooding the market with all these people who have these degrees and these quote unquote skill sets. And so just simple supply and demand, like your skill set is going to be worth less money now because there's a bunch of people that did the same exact thing you did and you're all competing for the same job.
Yeah.
So companies can just be like, well, let me decrease the amount of money that I'm going to pay because anyone's going to take, like, it's going to get filled by someone. Right?
Yeah.
So it just like makes the market less competitive. And
well, on top of that, but you got to take into account for businesses, they got to be able to manage the two sides of both paying employees high salaries if they need to, depending on the work they do.
right.
but also managing to make sure that profits are going to be a lot higher, so the product prices be a lot lower. You're not going to buy an iPhone if it costs $10,000, but you'll buy an iPhone that costs now I think $1,000. But that's the equivalent. Like, you got to go through that fine line of like still giving people high wages, but when you do that, it's going to cost the product price in society.
And you have, when you get, you work for a pretty small company, but when you get to bigger companies, like you got stakeholders and shareholders that are putting pressure on you. So you got to balance all that out. And like, I can sympathize with, C-suite executives and CEOs and CFOs and all that, because like you do have to like balance those priorities out. But at the same time, like, we don't see all of that. Like, I don't see all of that as just an individual contributor to the company. And so it's easy to like be like, well, if we have record revenues and record profits, last quarter, why are we getting such a small raise this year? And so
I guess that kind of goes to like another issue with the workforce today. The new Gen Z will be like they expect to have full transparency, or like knowing every little detail about the business, when they shouldn't have the right to, because it's not their part of the business. Like,
and it's like ultimately not within your scope of work.
Like, if you're paid to, like, for our case, engineer, to be electrical engineer, you're paid to only understand those areas, and maybe a team where you guys work on a project and you know all the requirements, but you're not paid to understand, like, hey, how is the 401ks being paid for? How is the insurance being paid for? How is the rent being paid for? Like, that stress is more on the C-suite. That stress is more on the owners of that company compared to what an engineer do. And the problem I have, like, when I think about that, because I used to think like that too. Like, I used to get mad, like, what's going on? Well, not me, because I grew up in a family business, so I understand all
a little
the time.
Different perspective.
But I can learn from others, and they'll be like, why is it having a hard time? Why were you doing financially? It's like, listen, you don't, like, I'm pulling a joke with them. Like, you don't understand the workings. What's going on? Like, how God tells Job, like, you don't understand how the universe is. Look at this. Look how complex this is. Like, you don't understand what's going on with the business.
I think you have to have insight, maybe not insight, but like perspective maybe into both sides. Because like, I've definitely fallen on the other side of the aisle just as like a lower level employee, where like I would get frustrated. Like, so for me, just in my career, I have an office mate who was promoted to a level 2 in like a year and a half, basically. And typically you're promoted to level 2 around the 2-year marks. But on their rubric that they provide for the criteria for like level 1, 2, 3, etc., it says that the years of experience is not like a hard decision fact. Like, it's not a hard factor in like determining whether or not someone deserves a promotion. And so I was getting to that 1.5 year mark, and my year-end evaluation was coming up, and I was, everyone I talked to was like, yeah, you deserve level 2. Your task, your scope of work is definitely like within the level 2 range. Like, you're getting complex tasks that you're managing, you're executing on. And I had inherited work from like a level 3 or a level 4 engineer who had quit the companies, and I was working kind of under him. But when he left, I inherited all of his work, but I was also working half-time on another program, or like on another team. So not only did I inherit all of his work, but I also inherited it at half the time that he had to do it. And I still got it done, and I was still executing successfully on my other team too. So it's like, well, I'm doing all these things. Why am I not getting a promotion? And so I had that meeting with my manager, and it was like very corporate, right? It was like, here's your 3% raise for the year. And I was like asking these questions. I was essentially like, hey, I think I deserve a level 2. But clearly you got, management doesn't agree. So what do I need to do to get to that next level? so that when you guys are ready to promote me, there's no reason to not promote me because of my performance.
Yeah.
And I didn't really get any good feedback. Like, the feedback was you're not doing anything wrong, essentially. And I was like, so when you tell me that, you're telling me that I deserve to be promoted to level 2. Mm-hmm. But it just wasn't happening. And there's, like you said, there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes. The manager, my direct manager, is not personally responsible for my promotion. There was also a lot of shuffling going around in management, and so like that adds an extra layer of complexity to like getting that promotion and getting put in for a promotion and all of that. But after I had that conversation with my manager, I was like really upset because like I was expecting to get that promotion.
Yeah.
And so like I stormed off to my coworker's office, and I was just like ranting to him for like an hour about how like upset I was. And I was like reflecting on that afterwards, and I was like, that was actually really messy. Like that was not a good reaction to have. And it's easy to like justify it because it's like, well, I deserved it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like, well, if I'm getting so upset about not getting a 10% raise, what am I actually serving? Am I serving God or am I serving money?
Yeah.
Right? Am I upset because, like, is my fear coming out of greed, or not my fear, my anger coming out of greed for money because I want more money? Is it coming from fear of me not having provision, enough money for food, and at the time I was saving for my wedding, so having enough money for my wedding, etc. Regardless of how you look at it, like, that was not a righteous response to what had happened.
It's not a righteous response, and I may add in because my brain thinks about things like this, but also think about the hour you spent ranting. Did you actually put in
it's a lost hour?
It's a lost hour.
Yeah.
You still charge the company for it, but like, did you actually do exactly what you need to do to get work done? And I'm sorry, I always think like that because I have and people under me, and like I know exactly how much they cost an hour. So,
yeah, I mean you're not wrong. Like, you're burning money that way.
Yeah. And I even think of myself too, because I know how much I make, and I'm like, shoot, the hour I just spent zoning off or doing something, thinking about something else, like
watching reels on your phone.
Like, I'm not perfect. I work a lot though, so I kind of I try to average it out with doing extra hours and just making sure my work's done. But when you work the strict 9 to 5, are you also being very truthful of the time you put in,
stewarding your hours well, being honest? Yeah, that gets into another challenging one where I see a lot of older employees who are not contributing a whole lot. They kind of just sit and just ride it out.
Yeah.
And that's easy to do in a big company because you don't have someone looking over your shoulder all the time. There's a lot of redundancy, I guess, in employees where they kind of just pay people to be there almost. And that's a big issue in defense contracting, because part of the award that the military gives is you have to have a certain number of personnel in order for you to get this contract or something like that. I mean, I'm not in contracts, so that kind of incentivizes companies to just have people employed under them in order to win contracts. And it's well, that's not very efficient, they're kind of just playing the game. And so, but as just an individual employee, it's frustrating to see people who have been there for 20 years that are making more than me, 50K more than I am, and I'm doing more work than they are. And so that gets really frustrating and can incentivize an idea of well, if they're not going to work, then I'm not going to work.
Yeah. And that's a major problem. And again, there's wrongs on all sides, because it's wrong on the older people to act like that. Believe me, I've gone through many people where we kind of just kicked out of the company because they're a lot older and they have years in experience. But when it comes to actually doing actual work, they're more of pointing the finger and telling what to do. But when you're a small company, you can't be like that. Like,
Yeah.
we need to have people doing the work too. I remember this one play we had, and yeah, he like has years of experience in manufacturing and stuff like that. And I can see like the work he's done in the past, but like somehow he just seems like he just lost his skill, lost his craft. And I'm like, I'm going crazy. I'm like, what the heck are you doing? Like, luckily, like in my position, it's more like I'm above him, so I'm getting a little angry. He's not pulling his weight, but yeah, when it comes to like younger people looking at the older generation like that, the problem is they tend to swing the pendulum the other way instead of like trying to combat it, doing it righteously.
Yeah, I think that's a very like natural human response to it. But I think like on a broader level, for like companies and stuff, I think one thing that should change is instead of just awarding tenure, award merit.
Yeah,
Like go back to merit-based rewards, and then you don't have to worry about, because then people are incentivized to work harder.
Yeah.
Because they're going to get more monetary value out of it. And people are happy to work hard if they're going to be rewarded for it. But if you're just going to not reward people for the hard work that they're going to put in, then you're disincentivizing people from working hard.
Yeah, no, that's a major problem. That's something very like mindset of myself is I care more about growing people and making sure people are like top notch in the industry than just like filling seats and numbers for a project or something like that.
Yeah.
Or just trying to have like whoever has the oldest thing. Like I'd rather put in charge someone who's young if they can handle not dropping the ball and they can handle all the responsibilities and stay on track at things. Like for me, I'm 26 and I'm in charge of a lot of people, and the reason why is not because I have tenure with my dad. Like I'm my dad's son. I was kind of growing into it. I was kind of groomed into it, but
Right.
It's more like I'm able to handle certain responsibilities, handle dealing with people, and making sure the factory is running every day, all the time. Mm-hmm. Compared to like, it's not less tenure, but more merit.
Yeah, and you work your butt off too, so it's like you're putting in the work and all that. So
Yeah. Well, the reason why, and I think this might go alongside like how we can change the culture and understanding and thinking is, and this is wisdom from Proverbs, but care more about your work than the money that you will get from it. And the way I like to say it, and this is something I kind of learned from my dad, and how I saw him go through life, is like he cared more about the work. Like he was enjoying it because he loves being an engineer, and it's just awesome stuff. But like when you put so much like effort and pride into your own craft, the money will always follow. Like like for him growing up, like in industries, he worked at HP to start with, and other different companies like Micron. And he would tell me like, as soon as after 6 months, I'm already leading a team. And the reason why is because he cared more about his work, cared more about his effort, growing himself up, spending the extra time to like really learn and try to be the best. The way he liked to say is always be the best.
yeah,
And because of that, the money followed. He had promotions and promotions, and he was able to straight up buy a boat and sports cars.
oh yeah, boat.
Until I was born.
Boat's making good money.
Yeah. I remember he saw that. I was like, I think I wasn't even born yet. Or I was like 2. And I was like, what the heck?
You didn't keep the boat, Dad?
But like, that's the kind of way like I look at it, like at myself. Like I'm not saying like I don't make a lot. Like I do know how much like I do get paid. But like one thing I do care more is like I don't really care about the money that much. I care about getting the job done and growing this place up that I'm at.
Yeah.
And I care more about that and knowing what Proverbs says. Now I'll read a couple verses out. But doing that, the money will always follow. Is the way I've always like thought about it. Proverbs, let's say Proverbs 22:29. Do you see that any truly competent workers, they will serve kings rather than working for ordinary people? That the people who are just caring so much and are very they're very taking care, making sure the ball's not dropped. They're gonna be the ones that work for the king. They're gonna be the ones that are super rich and working for the king, than working for ordinary people around. Another Proverbs. Let's see here. Good planning and hard work leads to prosperity, but hastily shortcuts lead to poverty. That's Proverbs 21:5. Proverbs 12:24. Hard work and become a leader. Be lazy and become a slave. Proverbs 13:4. Lazy people want much but get little, but those who work hard will prosper. It's like the understanding that if you put your effort more into your craft and what you're doing and make sure that's top notch, the money will follow afterwards. More like stop caring about what you're going to get and care more about making sure you're doing an awesome job.
Yeah. I think that definitely, I don't want to say that that's easier for you, but you have a special incentive as, working for a family company. Just watch it grow, because there's more consequence for you if you don't do your job. But what do you say for someone who, works for a big company, right? And their work is like brain dead work. Like it's just spreadsheets all day, writing in Word documents, whatever. What about those employees?
So the way I would say, and the thing is, like, I understand, like, what you said at the first part. Like, yeah, I do have, like, a little skin in the game, and I do have, like, my retirement is the business. Like, but it also means, like, that's everything. Like, all my eggs in one basket. I want to make sure I don't drop the basket.
Yeah, high risk, high reward.
Yeah, type of understanding. But the way I see the people, like, okay, spreadsheet pushers, how about instead of just doing the normal and just, clocking in 9 to 5 and just, all right, this is what they want me to do, I'll just do. How about start learning some Python or start learning some Visual Basic and then see if you can improve your efficiency and output and do a lot better. Your bosses will notice. Now, I understand, like you said, in your situation, it's kind of hard because when you have so many different bosses and bosses are being swapped out, like you told me in the past, like constantly back and forth, you have a new boss every day, and that does suck.
Yeah. I've had like 6 managers in the last 2 years. It's just absolutely absurd.
Yeah, I hear always people saying that, and then I'm like, oh, I had one boss for the past 10 years.
Yeah,
like, I love it.
Entire life.
But the way I see it, like, try your hardest to improve your craft. So like I said, like if you're doing spreadsheets all day, learn Python, learn Visual Basic, get the skills you can do that, so then you can literally be the guy that can do 5 of those spreadsheet tasks than one person. When you do that, when you're caring more about that, you know what's going to happen? Your boss is looking at it like, oh my goodness, this guy is saving me money. I'd rather fire this other guy or give him a little more raise because he's doing a lot more. And I still save money in the end.
Yeah.
Like, that's the way I think about it. An engineer, for this case, like, if you, let's say you're an electrical engineer and you're doing design or you're doing test work, build yourself up, try to take your off time a little bit, like you're doing with your masters, and learn a lot more of skills and trades. Train yourself. Like, dude, like, spend some nights talking with ChatGPT and learn stuff, or doing coding stuff. Like, try to get to it more efficient. So when you're set up in your tests and you're doing everything, it's better than the guy next to you.
Yeah. What about for the person? So I don't disagree, but just playing,
go for
just
it.
asking questions, right? So what about for the person who doesn't have the extra time on their hands to learn a new skill, to like spend time on work outside of work or something like that?
You're asking the wrong person that question.
I know.
No, the answer is make time. I don't want to. I sound like a David Goggins, or what's that other guy?
I know David Goggins. The other guy?
I'm trying to think. He's like a Navy SEAL.
Jocko Willink. Yeah.
He's like, sucks. Good.
Yeah. If it sucks, good. Opportunity to get better.
Like, you don't have time? Make time. Yeah. Like, that's my own understanding. Like, people, honestly, we tend to throw that excuse because we don't want to have, like, the onus on us. Like, we hate to be the reason why we're not improving, but the reason why we're not improving is ourselves. Like,
yeah,
I don't have enough time. Honestly, you can make time. I've seen stories in the past of people who had a family, like a dad's, and they're working 2 jobs to make sure their family is fed and make sure everything's proper. Like, they were able to find the time and do it. We as young people, we can find the time. Maybe less time looking at Instagram Reels, maybe less time on YouTube Shorts, and more time of bettering yourself. Maybe less time on TV and decompressing the day. And like, oh my goodness, this is so hard. Let me just sit down and do stuff. Or maybe just like, you know what? Let's read a book.
Yeah.
Like, that's the way I go towards that question, is like, you can always find time.
Yeah.
Like, you can always look at your schedule and fix things.
Yeah, I think especially for like younger people who generally speaking, don't have kids, don't have a whole lot of responsibility. Like, if you say you don't have free time, it's because you are not making free time.
Yeah.
Like, you do, you're just wasting it by like you said, scrolling on reels, or, you know, always hanging out with friends or whatever, which, like, okay, like, that's fine, I guess, but you're sacrificing something as a result of that.
Yeah.
And I will note, though, at my work, I saw an inefficiency, and I was trying, so it was like running a test, right? So we have like test procedures. We wanted to do a checkout on some hardware, and it's a long test. It takes a long time to do. It's very manual. It takes time, whatever. So I wanted to automate it, automate the hardware testing by developing like my own GUI and Python and all that. You know, automatically configuring test equipment, making measurements, processing data, all that.
Yeah.
And the goal was to extrapolate that, like, use that one unit as like a proof of concept, and then like build out from there to automate like all of our testing. But then I ran into issues with like quality engineering, and they were like, no, we can't do that. Like, that's outside of our scope of work. We're not on contract to do that. You know, so when you want to, like, you see an inefficiency and you want to improve on it, but then you have like bureaucracy over your head that's like, hey, you can't do that because we're not paid to do that. Like, that gets really frustrating.
It does. And just to play devil's advocate, or just to be the other side of it, it's because a lot of people are looking at the money it costs. And
yeah,
the way like I do it is like I do reward people if they want to take the extra time on my dime to try to improve it.
Yeah.
But if they fall flat on their butt, they're gonna get the pain.
Yeah.
Too, because I'm not gonna be that forgiving. Like, dude, it costs you 2 hours to do this, and we have nothing. Like,
yeah. No, I get it. Like, I get the financial side of things, but, you know, that's not my job to worry about.
It's not, yeah.
Like, call back what you said earlier. But thankfully, I do have a manager now at work who, like, when he came in, he saw a lot of the like issues that I saw when I started.
Yeah.
And so we were like very much on the same page when he joined the team. And so I would just like pitch him like, hey, what about this idea? What about that idea? Like, what if we did this? And he was like, yeah, let's do it. Let's go for it. And so in the last like year, like I've been able to like introduce some new ideas and provide some improvements to the team. And and you know, that's just part of like working in a corporate environment. Like, you just got to be able to figure out what you can do, work with other teams, get other people on the same page. Like it's just going to take effort to do those things. And
the only thing that and this is like more towards like how management is, you are at the mercy of how your managers are.
Yeah.
And depending on what you get, the ship will sink or swim.
Yeah.
You know, if you have a manager like you said you have that is like more hands-on in the front lines, a lot of things get done.
Yeah.
But because of the issue of like tenure and entitlement that people have, you can get a manager that's like very like far distant out.
Yeah, hands off, like whatever. Yeah, I've had managers like that too, where it's like, I have never met you face to face. Like, I had a manager who was my lead, quote unquote, for like 3 months, and I never met him. Like, we had one conversation over Teams, and I'd never seen him face to face. And I'm like, dude, this is crazy.
Dude, I dropped a doctor because of that type of mentality.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like, I straight up had a doctor's office I went to, and when I was always going in person, I always saw a nurse practitioner.
Oh, yeah.
But I never saw the main doctor, only once during COVID, because we had a virtual meeting. And so, like, sooner or later, when I heard that the one person I had been seeing, nurse, I forgot the word I just said.
Nurse practitioner.
Nurse practitioner left. I was like, screw it, I'm not going to come back to this freaking place. I went to my dad's doctor, and I see like my actual doctor each time. And I was like, way better. But
yeah, that's a whole like rabbit hole, dude. Doctors and
but just going back
practices.
To like, yeah, you're not seeing your manager that much. Like, what leader do you have? Like,
yeah. So that is another issue that can get really frustrating, and it's like easily justifiable, and like rightfully so. But at the same time, like, again, we don't serve our managers; we serve God, right? And so, we still have to have a good work ethic. We still have to be driven, still have to be motivated. Another thing I wanted to add too, like on top of the, if you're just a spreadsheet pusher or whatever, you don't enjoy the work that you're doing, and maybe you don't necessarily, somehow, some way you don't really have the time to learn a new skill, or the new skill, like there isn't room for growth in whatever job you're working. Like Pastor JP says, that's why we get paid. Like we get paid because we don't enjoy the work necessarily. Like if you enjoyed your work, then you would just show up and just do the job because you like it so much. But no, they got to pay you for you to show up. So sometimes that's just how it is, and you just got to grind it out, even though it's not fun. And and which is a hard reality to face, or like a hard thing to swallow. But again, like that's just how it is sometimes. And like we have a society that has a lot of jobs open. So if you want to change career paths, or if you want to go get another job, like you can do that at the same time too. So just things to consider. But so kind of on the note of like free time and doing working a lot, let's touch a little bit on rest, because we did not talk about rest at all in our notes, which I thought was hilarious.
Oh, could you blame me?
Yeah, I mean, me too. Like, I got my master's. I'm working 40 hours a week. Like, serving at the church a lot too. Like, so, So what's your take on resting from work?
Dude, I can pull 5 all-nighters in 1 week. Let's do it. Not just kidding.
You kill yourself when you're dying at 35.
Honestly, that is a tough one for me, and mainly because like my understanding is like it's hard to just like give up control of things, and that's what rest is supposed to do. Is like you're not supposed to worry about it. Rest in God and be with God. Like take time to take a step back and spend time with family and stuff like that. But for me, like, man, I don't want to drop anything. I want to make sure I juggle everything up in the air. So like I tend to like sacrifice rest for it, because like my priorities are not God first, but work first at times. That's what I feel like about rest. And my issue is sometimes with rest, I'm trying to actively grow in.
So what, if you had your ideal, what does that look like to you?
Ideal rest?
Yeah, between like ideal rest, and then also like when you're in the quote unquote act of resting, but also like the balance between work and rest.
I would say like resting for me will be like, I don't know, maybe less management and stuff, and more I just get to play around with things. Really just like, because I still like to use my brain no matter what, even when I'm in rest. Yeah. Like I don't think like when you rest you can't just stop thinking. Like,
yeah, right. You don't become a blob.
You don't just like sit there and just watch TV, because that's also bad rest too. Like I think when you're in rest, like you should spend the time pondering on God, pondering on life, like think about things, like taking that time to like reflect, and to use that time to like first like, hey, let's instead of doing hard work with my hands, we just sit down and just like think for a bit. It's not causing me calories and stuff like that. Like, yeah, that's like restful. And at times for rest for me, honestly, it's me programming.
That's where you and I differ.
Well, can you blame me when I'm just managing the whole day?
Yeah, no, I get you. Yeah, I think rest is an interesting topic, because there's a lot of, I mean, kind of like what we were talking about earlier on like self-care. Like people almost like push rest too much, in the sense that like, oh, I worked 6 hours a day, so I'm going to go home and spend the rest of the day doing nothing because I'm just so exhausted. And it's like, okay, you work 6 hours, bro. Like, calm down.
Nothing.
Yeah. But at the same time, on the flip side, there's also like the hustle culture, where it's like, I'm just gonna like
Gotta keep
just
on doing something.
working all the time. I'm gonna make money. I'm gonna get my bag. Like, not just no rest whatsoever, and like that's also not good either. And
well, they're constantly working to chase money.
Right,
The
right.
hustle culture.
And I think I don't remember what philosopher it was, but there's he said that there's virtue between extremes, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so the biblical approach to rest is the Sabbath, and I mean, obviously you know this, but God instituted the Sabbath for the Jewish people, which is on the Sabbath, like you're going to work really hard for 6 days, and then on the Sabbath day you're going to rest, right? And the purpose of it being not only to like rest and relax from work and let the body rejuvenate, but also like for the intent of like focusing on your relationship with God, and I'm sure family is involved in that too, and all that, and like today, like that we don't. You kind of get that in the sense of like the typical work schedule is like 5 days a week, and then like you have the weekends, but I think a couple things, but one of them being that people don't know how to rest. The way people will rest is like sitting on the couch and scrolling on your phone, or like playing video games or whatever, and like those are all very like stimulating activities, and it's not allowing your brain a chance to rest. So you're really not resting. You're just like doing another activity while like not moving, I guess, or it's just different. It's some sort of exertion. It doesn't allow your mind a true opportunity to like
just shut down,
relax. Not shut down, because like what you're saying, like it's not about being a blob, right? But I think there are activities that are more rejuvenating than others, right? So like another one that might be good is like for me, I like the opportunity to just sit down and like read scripture and pray and journal like on a Saturday morning. Because I can do it for like an hour or 2 hours. And I don't do it every Saturday, but when I have the opportunity, like I enjoy it, because it's like, okay, I can just sit and just read and just like absorb what I'm reading and meditate on the word. Other ones are like, going to the gym and like listening to a podcast.
Listen to us.
Listen to the Smithy podcast. I also and kind of aligned with like things, like just doing things that you enjoy doing just for the sake of doing it because you enjoy it. I definitely don't program in my free time, but I do watch like YouTube videos on like stocks and investing, and because like not only is it practical, but it's also something that I enjoy. Right. And so that can be like, restful for me is, without like overexerting myself. But yeah, I'm not great either at like the cadence of like regular rest in terms of like, someone we both know, like very intentional about like resting on a certain day, like Saturdays, right? Saturday's a day I'm going to put everything aside, not going to worry about it, and just like focus on time with family and time with the Lord. And like that I really struggle with too, because it's like, and I justify it because I'm like, well, I got work, I got, I'm doing my master's right now. I got chores I got to do. Like, to me, chores are not restful at all. I got a meal plan for the week. I got to do all these things. And it's like, well, I'm not allowing myself the opportunity to just like relax, and like tomorrow morning, like I'm giving the teaching at the youth service, and it's like, well, that's more work that I'm going to have to do later today. Right. And I also have to flex hours for work over the weekend. So like, it's hard. But I think it wouldn't be important, or God wouldn't have made a law around it if it wasn't important.
It's super important, and it's not just a law, but he also showed that himself
Right.
took a day of rest.
Yep.
Also, it's like
Yep.
it was very important in Genesis to say, on the seventh day God rested.
Yeah.
And you're like, whoa, like the creator of the universe, the one who has ultimate power, who will never feel fatigue at all, even took rest too.
Yeah.
And it makes you think.
To prove a point.
to prove a point. But just to show us as humans, like, dude, even us, like, we get fatigue. We're finite. We're not like we're physical bodies.
Yeah.
And because of that, we need to take rest too. But then also, what is good rest? And that's the time in society where we have a problem, like you said, where we are constantly trying to stimulate our brain, because we can't actually take a rest from making sure our brain is like not stimulated and dopamines and all the things.
Right.
Actively trying to like rest like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I need to like get outside more and like, go for walks and go to the beach or stuff like that, because those are also like,
Dude, we should go kayaking sometime.
Kayaking, yeah. I just don't have a truck to tow a kayak around. Well, you have one. So I'll store my kayak on your patio. We'll see what I do.
It's already a bike, just full of different stuff.
But yeah, kind of one more note I wanted to add too, because we're getting close to time.
Yeah.
But yeah, on the subject of control, I was listening to. I'm probably going to butcher this summary, but I think I kind of got it. It's from a Christian philosopher named Jonathan Pageau. He has a podcast called The Symbolic World, and he had this video on YouTube about why 6 is seen as like the devil's number. And it's in reference to the number 7, which is like the perfect number. It's a number that represents God, the number of completion. Whereas 6 is the devil's number because it has just fallen short of number 7. And there is something between 6 and 7 that, and to add a little more context, if you look at it from the perspective of like a human's work or man's work, right, we can get the 6. We can work our butts off, get the 6, but there's like a little bit something extra that gets to 7 that we cannot provide. And so 6 is the desire to achieve 7 and perfection essentially without God's input. And so that's why 6 is like the number of evil, because it's essentially, life without God, basically. Seeing yourself as God, basically. Yep. And I'm sure there's more reasons why 6 is seen as the devil's number, but I think that's a good like illustrator of like control and unwillingness to let go. Yeah. Because we want to, we have a desire to control everything and just like handle it ourselves, and that stems from like a place of fear and anxiety, and it keeps us from resting and truly putting our faith in God. Yeah. And so that's part of the importance of rest and Sabbath, is like having faith that God will like still provide what we need, even when we let go to rest. Yeah, essentially.
And like we said, we started the second topic here is like, or not the section of the topic, but it's hard to do that. It's hard to give control and stuff like that. And like honestly, it just brings me back to like an actual interaction I had recently over text, where I had a good friend. She was actually reaching out because God put my name on her heart to pray about. She asked me like, "Hey, are you doing okay? I'm praying for you." And I kind of responded back, it's been okay. I try to give the answer that everyone gives because they don't want to seem like
I'm fine.
I'm fine. But I got a little real, and I was like, honestly, work has been a lot more stressful, and I just don't want to fail. And and when she responded back, like, the Lord put you on my. I'll read it exactly, but. I'll continue to pray over your stressful work. Remember that it is not by your means, but through the Lord that we can accomplish things in the natural world. And like it's just like call back to that conversation. It's like, again, like we learn to give up control and just like it's not by our own means, there's a certain point where we got to do our work. We got to make sure things are getting done, but we got to make sure we give it to the Lord at the end.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. All right. Well, I'm sure we're over an hour by now. But
Hour 30.
Oh, dang. Yeah, this is a long talk. We could yap about work all day long.
Dude, this is like our favorite topic.
Yeah. So, yeah, let's go ahead and close out so we're not going too long. But do you have any final thoughts you want to share or anything more provide as we close out?
Wisdom, whenever you're in the workplace, try your hardest to be the best, to work hard. Not so you can boast for yourself, but boast for Christ.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I think I'll echo that, and kind of a topic we somewhat touched on, but we'll talk more on later. But like, we don't work just for money. Like, we work for the Lord, right? Mm-hmm. And if your work sucks, like, well, one, it's a job, so yeah, because of the curse of the fall, it's gonna be rough. But just remember, like, we don't work for people. We work for the Lord, and we're supposed to put our best foot forward and work with integrity and righteousness, and just continually pursue holiness. And we're gonna fall, and we're gonna make mistakes, but just repent, get back up, repent, and the Lord will forgive you, and just do better. Mm-hmm. Through the Holy Spirit. And yeah, so sweet. Well, good conversation. Appreciate you, bro, and
appreciate you too. Finally did number 2.
Yeah, we did episode 2, and we're gonna post it.
We're posting this. Quality of the sound quality looks amazing. So
yeah. Sweet, guys. Well, thank you for listening. Pray that you were blessed by this conversation and are encouraged, and we'll catch you on the next one. Peace out.
Thank you. Peace.